Hi, my name is Nikki, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Apple Company. Okay, so before Apple became a huge successful business, it actually originated in the garage of Steve Jobs' parents' home. They called this garage their shop, is where they did majority of their work and created their very own technology. Which was actually where they created their very first product known as the Apple I. And the Apple I was like a computer. Um, this this was a computer that was entirely created by Steve Wozniak. Wozniak. Okay. And besides Steve Jobs and his pal Steve Wozniak, there was actually a third person who did not get as much credit as he should have. Okay. Um, this person was Ronald Wayne. Okay, Ronald Wayne was actually the person who came up with the idea of the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac. Now, 12 days after the business had begun, he actually dropped out without knowing that it was going to be very successful in the future. Mm. Um, in 1976, that is when they first started creating their inventions and their technology and everything, but Apple actually made an appearance on January 3rd of 1977. They sold their very first product for just $500, and later on down the road, they sold more and more, and they began a whole company who eventually became international. Okay. With their name, the Apple name, um, they actually didn't really know what they were going for. They just wanted something that just seemed normal and didn't seem like demeaning or anything. And so after Jobs was coming back from a workplace, he worked at an Apple farm, and they were playing around with the names, like for instance Apple Orchid or Apple Records, but they could never really find something that stuck, so they just stayed with Apple. Okay. And their logo. The original logo was actually a picture of Newton sitting up under the tree, the apple tree, reading. And if you look in the picture right here, the very first one, you can see that it's got the apple like glowing a little, and it's telling the story about how it fell and hit him on the head. Um, but they wanted something that was more original and something that they had created like themselves, that wasn't as complex, and so they decided to use an actual Apple logo for an actual apple. um the only thing is that they didn't want people not like thinking that it looked like a tomato, so they took a bite out of the apple on their logo, which was actually very creative. The expansion of Apple. Okay, before the iPhones were even a thing, there were the iPods. And the very first iPod, which is the iPod Shuffle, was released on October 23rd of 2001. And then after that, there was the iPod Nano that was released on September 25th, 2005. And after that, we had like the iPod Classic, and then like iPod Touch, and there were different versions of the iPod Touch, and each year it actually got bigger and bigger. The very first iPod Touch was released on September 5th of 2007, and the very last one, which was the sixth generation, was released in 2015. And The iPhone Touch is actually the only I'm sorry. The iPod Touch is actually the only iPod that is still like being created and everything. The iPod Shuffle and all of that was actually discontinued years ago. Okay, the iPhone. The very first iPhone was actually released on June 29th of 2007, but earlier that year, on January 9th of 2007, Steve Jobs actually announced at a Macworld convention that there would be one that was released, and so this caused like a lot of media attention for their company, which actually helped. And so when the first iPhone was released, there was a lot of people who were wanting it, and so it was in a very high demand. Um, After that, there was the iPhone 3G, which was released in, oh, excuse me, it was released July 11th of 2008, and then not even a whole year after that, they came out with the iPhone 3GS, which was released June 19th of 2009. And there were so many more after that. The iPhone 4 came out in 2011, iPhone 5 in 2012, and then the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 5C 2013. This actually, I believe the iPhones was actually what made their money the most, because it was the most demanding product, mostly because of like the camera quality, and the storage that it has. It has very great storage. Later down the road in 2014, the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus came out. And then after that, the iPhone 6S and the 6S Plus was actually released literally a year later on the same date, and then the iPhone SE was released in 2016, which it is actually a little pink phone. It was created for those families who didn't have that much income, and so it was like something cheaper but still valuable. The iPhone 7 and the 7 Plus were released on September 16th of 2016, that same year. The iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus were released September 22nd of 2017, and then the iPhone X was released November 10th of 2017, and the iPhone X and iPhone XS Max were released September 21st of 2018. And this is just like a little evolution of the iPhones, as you can see, like from the very first one to the very last one, which is the iPhone XS Max. You can tell how it's gotten bigger, and in some of them, it's actually gotten smaller. I guess it really depends on the person. Because a lot of people, like if you have small hands, you would prefer a smaller one over a larger one. Okay. They're competitors. Um, Apple had a lot of competitors. The top 5 were actually Dell, Lenovo, Samsung, Hewlett Packard, and Microsoft. Okay. These, Apple had a good advantage, two major advantages over their competitors, or the top 5 competitors. Apple knew how to research and develop their skills, and plan how they were gonna make a product that would raise their value for the company, and that would be successful. They also Sorry, my brain froze up there a little bit. Okay. Um, their main advantage was actually being a valuable brand. Their company, the value of it is actually worth $184 billion, which is a lot of money. But that comes with having something that is, well, valuable and worth paying the actual money for. Okay, so even though I talked about a lot of Apple's like successes and everything, it actually did have a few like setbacks and everything, but those aren't really important. But I can tell you that Apple is an amazing company. They've um been going on 42 years now of April of this year. Um, and they probably got a lot more going like in the future. They'll probably come out with a new phone sometime this year. And that's about it, I guess.